Mr. President, I don't think at this point there are too many people who think Democrats were actually interested in reforms of Border Patrol and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, because it was pretty clear from their actions that they were not. If you're interested in getting reforms, you don't say no when you're repeatedly offered a robust reform package, even if you can't get every single thing you want. But Democrats, of course, said no again and again and again. And eventually they just walked away completely and refused to provide even $1 of funding for Border Patrol or ICE. Clearly, they decided that having a political issue for November was more important than reforms. And Mr. President, you certainly don't have to take my word for it, because the Democrat leader came out last week and admitted that the decisions he and his party have made this Congress have been about one thing, and that's improving Democrats' prospects in November. This is a quote: "We made a lot of strategic decisions that got us to this place. It didn't happen by accident," end quote, the Democrat leader said, referring to his view of his party's position. And you know what he ticked off as some of the most strategic decisions, Mr. President? Democrats' 2 record-breaking government shutdowns. That's right. Democrats shut down the government twice to try to improve their chances in November, not to help hardworking Americans, not to get reforms at ICE and Border Patrol. No, to improve their chances in November. Mr. President, let's just run down some of the consequences of Democrats' choices. The disastrous situation at U.S. airports that resulted from Democrats' decision to cut off funding for air traffic controllers, for one. There are the incredible lines that Americans faced at TSA in the middle of that shutdown. The TSA officers who have left in droves thanks to Democrats' decision to force them to work without pay for quite literally months this fiscal year. There's the strain Democrats' actions placed on our national security agencies and the people entrusted with protecting our nation. And then there were the government workers lining up at food banks, charging necessary expenses on credit cards and wondering if they would be evicted from their homes because they couldn't afford to pay next month's rent. The damage Democrats have caused has been immense. And for what? For what, Mr. President? To improve their chances in November. Mr. President, Democrats would like you to believe they're the party of the little guy, of everyday American workers. But a better insight into their real attitude might be gained by the Democrat leader's statement earlier in Democrats' first government shutdown, when he said this, and I quote, "Every day gets better for us," end quote. The us, of course, being Democrats. Every day gets better for us. Mr. President, when the Democrat leader made this statement, military families were on the verge of missing pay. So were a lot of civilian government employees, like the Capitol Police officers who stand on guard for us around this building. People were wondering how they'd cover their rent, their food, their commuting costs, their electric bills. But none of that was on the Democrat leader's mind. All he could think about was whether the shutdown was good for Democrats' polling. And then there's the article that came out last week about what House Democrats' first bill would be should they take the majority in November. Democrat leadership, of course, has been trying to push the narrative that Democrats' big interest is in making life more affordable for everyday Americans. But as last week's article made clear, it turns out that House Democrats are by no means agreed that affordability should be at the top of their priority list. They're interested in other issues, like a reboot of their proposed federal election takeover, or simply trying to undo anything President Trump has done, presumably presumably simply because President Trump has done it. I wonder if they would try to undo the tax relief Republicans passed for working families, which every single Democrat voted against. Hard to know. But as a Democrat leader made clear last week, Mr. President, one thing's for sure. It's not the American people who are top of mind for Senate Democrats. It's their election prospects in November.